How you doing? So great to see you all again. I feel like it's been forever. I think it probably has. It's been a while since we've done one of these videos. Thank you, as always, to TYT Sports for allowing me to do these, and more importantly, thank you for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. This week's topic is really, really interesting. I think you're going to like it, and it directly relates to this new era of the WWE that we found ourselves in post-WrestleMania. And we've have Shane McMahon is still running Raw for some reason. They've said the internet said so. Okay, sure. But now he and Stephanie seem to have made amends, and matches are slowly getting better. We're seeing a lot more guys from NXT who are making their debuts, and who knows what we're going to see as we start building up into the summer months and get closer to SummerSlam, one of the first major pay-per-views. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. There's a lot of good talent on the horizon that I think we should be excited for. So let's get into what we're talking about today. Bret Hart. Okay, Bret Hart has a weekly podcast, and it's called The Sharpshooter Show on like WrestleZone. Yeah, WrestleZone Radio. And he does a weekly podcast every Tuesday. And last week, on the May 10th edition of the podcast, they asked him, what does he think about this new era of the WWE? And we're going to go through a couple of his quotes and address them and talk about them and see, what do you guys think of what he said? Okay, the first thing he said, when they asked him, does it feel like the WWE has entered a new era? He said, and I quote, I'd say that to me, professional wrestling today has mostly little people in it. Okay. I don't see any real big men anymore. The ones that are in there aren't used properly, like Mark Henry. Guys like Mark Henry are seeing less and less time on TV. Okay. That statement is dumb. We're going to throw this out there. And here's why it's dumb. Mark Henry just competed at WrestleMania just a few months ago. He was in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. He didn't just compete, he made it to the final 6. So it's not as if he's off TV. Okay, do you see him compete every week? No. And there's a simple reason why. He's 44 years old. The guy is 6'4", 400 pounds. And at 44 years old, he simply can't keep up the same workload that he used to do when he was younger. Even for a guy of his size, he was never that used that much, just because he's so big and because he had other commitments. He was an Olympic powerlifter. I mean, the guy, if you look at his Wikipedia page, all the world records that he holds, he's a legit strongman. So he did other stuff. So you can't expect him to be on the road every week. So for Bret Hart to say Mark Henry should be on TV more is kind of ridiculous, considering the plethora of talent that we have, and we're going to go over later. Hefe, what is a plethora? I know, if you got that reference, good for you. It was very strange because the whole era of the big man just doesn't work anymore. And I'm happy that the WWE has kind of shifted away from it. And Hart makes a couple of examples here that we're going to go over in a second. But guys like Mark Henry and Big Show, who are sort of the contemporary big men, for us anyway, that a lot of us remember from the Attitude Era, are getting up there in age. So having them come out every week and do the things we expect them to do that they could never do. Mark Henry was never a high flyer. Big Show was never a high flyer. He was fairly agile for a guy who was 7 feet tall. But I'm not really sure what Bret Hart is expecting them to go out and do. And it's a tad insulting to say, hey, forget the new guys. I want someone who's pushing 50 years old to go out there instead and perform. It was very strange. And then we moved on, and he said, it seems like the wrestlers, they're all little jumping bean guys. Okay, besides the veiled racism of that, unfortunately, he did not mention any of the Lucha stars. Otherwise, that probably could have caused a legit controversy if he would have put those two things together. So, but he did mention a couple other guys by name. He said that they're all trying to be like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, kind of smaller guys, relatively speaking. He mentions Dolph Ziggler by name, and he does this weird compliment sandwich thing where he compliments him and says he can do a million high spots and he's in phenomenal shape, but then he insults him by saying they all look the same. Well, I think there's a good reason for that. There's a reason why the WWE has expanded out to use more talent that looks, quote unquote, a little more normal, because we can relate more to these people. I can relate a lot more to a guy like Dolph Ziggler. I mean, because we both have the same kind of abs. You're just going to take my word on that, because we totally do. But I can't relate to someone who's 7 feet tall. I mean, that's a whole different lifestyle. But at least Dolph Ziggler is closer to me than somebody like that who's just a genetic monster. But it's strange that that Bret Hart wants us to go. It seems as if he wants us to go back. He wants us to go back in time to an era when you had mostly big men who were admittedly a lot slower. And we just had this big versus small feud in the Kalisto Ryback RIP kind of match. And who won that feud? Kalisto did. And what we're failing to realize is we may be looking at it as older people as we watch professional wrestling. And we comment on it through the eyes of an older person. But think of it, if you're a kid and you watch Kalisto and Ryback, you watch this tiny guy taking on this muscle-bound giant of a man, and Kalisto wins. He emerges the victor. That sends a message to that kid that your size doesn't matter. Kalisto didn't need to have bigger muscles. He didn't need to be stronger. He just needed the will to win, and he found a way to win that match, and he came out successful. So we can't forget that WWE still at its heart tries to tell these positive stories. That's why John Cena is still the most requested celebrity for Make-A-Wish Foundation. His whole hustle, loyalty, respect thing is built for young children. It's not meant for people like you and me, those of us who are older. He's meant to be a positive role model. Yet another reason why he's never going to turn heel is because he is the consummate good guy. He is that shining example that little kids look up to. So it's just not going to happen. But you can't look at a guy like Ryback and say, yeah, he's a good role model for kids. I mean, remember, he was a bully not that long ago. That was his storyline, was he just beat people up in the back, which was also kind of strange, considering the WWE has the Be a Star campaign, which is all about anti-bullying. But that's a video for another day. Finally, the third quote I want to mention is he says, "I miss the guys that would go out there that looked like Nikolai Volkoff." Nikolai Volkoff was born in the 40s. His last match was, official match anyway, in the WWE was in the mid-90s. I think it was 95. So it was 21 years ago that he had an official WWE career. He had a couple of random spots now and then, as a lot of retired Hall of Fame guys do. Every now and then they show up to like celebrity battle royals and stuff like that. But still, a big guy, yeah, 6'4", 313 pounds. But again, not a high flyer, not someone who you would look at and say, yeah, he's incredibly athletic compared to the wrestlers we have today. He mentions a couple other guys, one who I hadn't even heard of and I had to look up. He said, what about somebody that looks like Don Leo Jonathan or Mad Dog Vachon? Again, Don Leo Jonathan, born in 1931. Mad Dog Vachon, born in 1929. These are guys from an era that's long past. Hell, Mad Dog Vachon is dead. He's not even around anymore. So you can't keep comparing the stars of today with the stars of yesteryear. It's just not fair. He wants guys to go back to being like, where's the King Kong Bundys? Where's the big guys? Who's hiding all the King Kong Bundys in the world? Again, King Kong Bundy, born in the 50s, 6'4", 458 pounds. Not a guy who was known as being incredibly athletic. They would compliment him all the time saying, oh, well, he can move really fast for a big guy. But that's kind of a velvet knife, so to speak. It's just saying, okay, yeah, he can still move around the ring without getting out of breath after taking a few steps. So I think to throw out the names of these classic Hall of Fame caliber and some legit Hall of Famers, those kind of wrestlers, but then to say that the WWE needs to get away from that is a little bit insulting, because you do have big guys in the WWE who are arguably more athletic than those guys were. People like Luke Gallows, Big Cass, Braun Strowman, Eric Rowan, even Apollo Crews. These are really big dudes, and they're still in their late 20s, early 30s. So they've still got a really long career ahead of them in the WWE. Even guys like Kane and Undertaker and Big Show, who are still in the roster, they're pushing 50. In the Undertaker's case, they are 50. He's 51. Kane is 49. Big Show's 44. So these are guys who are still part of the roster, but they don't wrestle all that often, simply because they can't. Their bodies are they're too beat up, and they're also so senior in the company, they don't need to go out there every week and prove themselves. They've put in the work. They've won the championships. So these guys are Hall of Fame bound, without a doubt, and rightfully so. They deserved it. So now it's time to let a new generation of big men make their mark on the WWE, and I don't think Bret Hart is recognizing that. You know, just because he's a legend and he's a Hall of Famer doesn't mean we can't criticize him. I mean, the greatest meme in the internet is the crying Jordan face, and that's a veiled insult to one of the greatest, if not the greatest, basketball player of all time. So Bret Hart is certainly not immune to criticism if we've got the crying Jordan meme floating around. So I don't think Bret Hart is being fair in this case when he wonders where all the big guys are. Bret, they're here. They're right here in the WWE. And I'm sorry if you haven't noticed them, but that's your problem, not theirs, because they are putting in the work and they are going over huge with the crowds, especially guys who are coming in from NXT or guys who are making the jump off the sinking ship that is TNA and coming onto the winning side of the WWE and making their presence felt, and the crowd loves it. So I really think he needs to pay more attention to the talent that's out there right now instead of living in the past. That's just my 2 cents. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Bret? I want to know. Put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. This is a great opportunity to get some opinions and get a real good conversation flowing. Send the link out to your friends. Let them see. As you know, I love taking your ideas. TYTSports loves taking your ideas. If you have ideas for another video, put it in the comments below. They'll grind it over. They'll pick out the best one that they want. They'll send it to me. I shoot one of these videos, and they work their magic. And then the cycle starts new. So as always, thank you so much for watching this video. Follow me on Twitter at Chief Joshiola. Send me a tweet, send me a DM, do whatever you want to do. If you have some great ideas or you just want to comment on the video. Thank you as always for watching. I'll see you next time.